Yeah, see, I knew it. I knew I was going to be live before I knew I was live because the countdown froze. Hello, welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. My name's Pete Howard. Yeah, that's my name. Honest to goodness, that's my name. PA Howdy on Twitter. This is Dynasty Grind. We do it every Wednesday night from 9:30 till we get tired, basically answering or responding to any questions, comments, or thoughts you have on Dynasty Fantasy Football in general, or just fantasy in general. And that's about it. We have Zach Reed with us. Dynasty Outhouse is still busy trying to help put the Scott Fishbowl together, so he can't join us. He prioritizes, and we're at the bottom of the list, which is fair. But me and Zach are happy to respond to any questions or comments that you might have. Right now, first time I've ever seen this, which feels like a flex. We don't have any comments yet. So me and Zach are just going to chat a bit, I guess, which is fine. It's just like cool. If you want to be the first comment, this will be the first time anyone has the opportunity after we go live. Normally we have a few before we start. So welcome in. Let's talk some Dynasty, and thanks for being here. Hey, Zach, how you doing?
Hey, the people have spoken. They have learned everything that we have to offer. We're done. Our work here is done.
It is. Honestly, this is the dead zone. If there's a dead zone of the period, like it's right now. Like everyone's made their rookie picks, so they're getting ready to. Trades are hard to come by. I was surprised we were still popping last week, to be honest with you. It feels like a bit of a dead time.
I hope that everybody that normally is in this chat are all doing underdog fantasy Scott Fishbowl satellite tournaments. That's the hope is everybody's doing that. They're just, face down in the Scott Fishbowl $5 underdog tournaments to try to earn entry into the SFB 14, which will be next year.
That would be the ideal, or we've just been cancelled. I've asked Twitter to check to see if they're cancelled, because, that's the other option. And what were we talking about? We were talking about whether we're making Dynasty too complicated, because the Too Long Didn't Read version works with a few simple notes about how the trends to expect, like rookies doing better in the second half of the season than the first half of the season, second-year breakouts being the most common breakout. You're pretty much set. You don't really need to know the percentages. And trade for Jordan Addison right now with an older, proven wide receiver if you can get draft capital on top of him, or by week.
I want to ship the running back.
I think your running back note is pretty lit, but at the same time, that I'm going to make it too complicated, because at that point you have to start talking if your team's competitive, why not win? And so, like, if you've got Bijan Robinson or CMC right now and you're competitive, keep them. It's possible, but yeah, in general, just trade for Jordan Addison, trade for JSN. I'm really interested in questions that I have from this season. It's mostly about dynasty value, because I do expect less breakouts this year, which is the primary things I hunt for to change my stars, as it were, in season. But I'm interested in what happens with JSN. Jason Moore on the podcast this week said something interesting where I've been railing against, and I know you're on the same train, that you expect less from JSN this year because of his situation. But I'm heavy on the train of, if you don't impress in your first year, by my standards, which isn't everyone's standards, to be fair, that's bad. Like, disappointing rookie seasons is a major red flag for me. So I was looking to try and take advantage of that this year, but he's got a point where people are expecting this somewhat fair, but at the same time, define disappointing take. I think I was hoping for JSN value in season, but I think you're right. I think it's just going to keep being Addison.
Yeah, and I do. I think people are prepared to wait for JSN based on the fact that he landed with DK and Tyler Lockett, even though Tyler Lockett's coming to the tail end of what has been a magnificent career. He still is a top 24 wide receiver, and so landing in with a couple of top 24 wide receivers is a tough row to hoe, for a rookie, even as good as JSN is.
Yeah. Zay Flowers and Quentin Johnston. That's the other thing that came up on the podcast this week. And I've been thinking Quentin Johnston's a little slept on. I can't find anything major wrong with him. He feels a little Drake London-y to me, in that we're scheming him into a role that I didn't find him excelling at in college, but he did well enough, and Drake London did well enough that I like him. And I'm worried he's going to be Michael Thomas. This happened to me for Michael Thomas, where his draft capital and production was okay, but that started the Ohio trend with him and Terry McLaurin, so he's not probably the best example. But wide receivers that are fine, really well valued. I like them at their ADP. They're below Addison, below JSN, so cool. But I don't get them because I'm not targeting them. I'm either going to get Addison, or I'm trying to trade out, or try and go up for Robinson, or maybe a quarterback in a super flex. Do you have can you remind me how excited or not excited you are about Flowers or Addison? See, Flowers I'm a little lower on, but I don't mind him where he goes. And I'm worried I'm not interested at all because, again, for that same thing, I kind of want the other two.
I am more interested in Quentin Johnston than Flowers, but still interested in. So like the top 7 to me in a super flex are really interesting. Obviously Bijan, the 3 quarterbacks, then Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and then to me Quentin Johnston and Zay Flowers. Sorry, yeah, they're the two-headed monster, but Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers. And the thing with Quentin Johnston that I think is not quite baked into where you get him in the 7th, 8th pick in a rookie. Yeah. But there's potential for him to go completely ham this year.
That's kind of what, like, if he did that, like, I won't have any of him because I'm going up to get Addison, JSN,
and like I don't mind. Like I want to move up for JSN and Addison and even Gibbs, but I'm not disappointed. Like J Mike and I did a show the week before the NFL draft where we said trade into picks 7 through 10. Because there are going to be players there that are going to be valuable, and I think this is that tier of Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers that is actually really interesting at that range. And again, like Quentin Johnston tied to that offense in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert having the potential to, again, both of those receivers that are seeing the majority of those targets, look, they've been nicked up. And so it wouldn't take very much for him to end up in a role. It's almost like the running back thing, because you don't normally see this with wide receivers. You don't normally see a clear, wide receiver with potential to ascend into that role. I think Quentin Johnston has the talent, has the situation where he's potentially starts off as the 3, but if something happened, all of a sudden he's got a chance to go absolutely nuclear because Justin Herbert is exactly the type of quarterback that can use what he does.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think rookie drafts are where my head's at on him and Flowers because, again, I want those top 4, and you can only make so many moves. If I can get an extra pick in that range, great, but it's not my focus, and it hasn't happened. So I'm getting Addison, I'm getting JSN, I'm trying to get Gibbs, Robinson, or I'm getting out, unless it's a quarterback. Lower down, there's Josh Downs, so on and so forth. But he is the one that stands out to me when I look at actual ADP. Not rookie drafts, but when I look at a startup ADP, I'm like, man, Quentin Johnston right there. And I'm just thinking maybe he or Flowers, if that's your flavor, because both are pretty reasonable. That's your week 4 if people are disappointing, maybe. I was thinking about including them that way, trying to get him on my team that way if I could.
And to me, the path for Flowers is not as obvious or as easy as the path for Quentin Johnston to me, because you're hoping that Lamar Jackson gets set free. You're hoping that Rashad Bateman doesn't become what we expect Bateman to be if Lamar Jackson is unlocked. You're hoping that Mark Andrews isn't Mark Andrews with this new look offense. You're hoping that the ball doesn't get thrown to J.K. Dobbins, and you're hoping that Zay Flowers assumes this massive number 3 target role in an offense that we don't even know what the offense is, where Quentin Johnston is in LA, where the narrative is they've got a new offensive coordinator and things are going to fly there. Newsflash, the last 2 years, Justin Herbert threw 699 and 674 passes. So it doesn't matter if they open that offense up anymore. He is throwing a ton, and there are a ton of targets in that offense just because Justin Herbert is awesome, and so are his weapons. And so to me, the real obvious bet is the talent of Quentin Johnston I liked better than Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And the situation of Quentin Johnston I like better than Zay Flowers. So that to me is a pretty easy bet on Quentin Johnston.
All right, we got a couple of questions here. I was going to go talk about Puff Pass Kicks trade that he asked me about and posted on Twitter, but we actually don't have comments, so why not? Let's talk to Todd here. He's wondering about free agent running backs, and I got to admit, I'm looking them up. I don't know who's left. I was going to say Jeff Wilson, because the free agents I know have signed, and I keep seeing Jeff Wilson really deep just on the Miami depth chart. Why not? And that's kind of where my head's at. David Montgomery, again, has signed. But I also talked to Blue Chip Fantasy this week, and he loves David Johnson, and I kind of like the idea. You know, Jamal Williams was pretty fun last year. But looking at the list that I can quickly look up, it's like Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette, Elliott is apparently listed as a free agent still available.
Zeke Dalvin Cook.
Kareem Hunt, he's actually abnormally high in DLF ranks, so that's probably a name. If he lands somewhere, he can make some buzz. And Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. And to me, it's Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook are the real, like,
yeah.
And
they could honestly take games and get you starts. Yeah.
Honestly, it's Dalvin Cook. Like, I'm willing to, if somebody has Dalvin Cook and you can get Dalvin Cook for a second round pick, I will do that 100 times out of 100.
Maybe on the clock. I want to see who's available for a running back because there's some interesting second round running backs this year. But
I think Dalvin Cook is better than all of them. Like even 1 year of Dalvin Cook is legit.
I wonder if he's trading for that. I'm gonna go look at that. Zach Harris, evening guys. Zach, first time in Scott Fishbowl. Welcome in. Congratulations. Never done a third round reversal. Can you drop some knowledge about it? Yeah, I hate it. Honestly, I think it overcompensates for the early picks. But on average, the first few picks are still mathematically, as I understand it, statistically going to be a stronger advantage, even in third round reversal, but it feels bad, man. I have an early pick this year, and what I found consistently on average, especially in the Scott Fishbowl scoring this year, while Kelsey's interesting, I still lean quarterbacks, man. They get real thin real quick. You got to read your draft and your draft room. But I find by the time you get past that third round reversal, getting a deep quarterback is really rough in the Scott Fishbowl because the scoring is so emphasized on it.
So I've got the 101, and I see Bob Gilchrist in the chat. Bob and I are in the same live draft, and I don't mind sharing a little bit of my strategy anyway because I like whatever. But I have the 101, and looking back at my league mates last year and their tendency to draft quarterbacks, and also in experience with the Scott Fishbowl, Zach, I've been in since I played in the SFP 480 satellite leagues, and then after that SFP 7, I was in the main event. So what I will say is all of these mocks, if you're doing any mocks, all of the ADP that you're seeing coming into the Scott Fishbowl via mocks, the quarterbacks don't come off the board quite like they do in the real thing, because it's easy to sit there and play with a mock draft and try to figure out strategy. And maybe, you wait an extra round or two on quarterback. In my division last year, 17 quarterbacks went before I had my 312. So that third round reversal. So it's
I would say this year, without the negative scoring, it's not as bad to have like quarterbacks 17 and 18 or 17 and 25 because there's no negative scoring. and the positional advantage drops off. Even in Scott Fishbowl scoring relatively quickly. I've got to make my Scott Fishbowl draft guide, draft sheet thing that I make. I keep meaning to, and then I've been doing other things to show exactly that, like the difference, positional advantage from one to the other.
And Kelsey last year was like 6 points a week advantage over the tight end too, but the difference between getting Josh Allen, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and then a second, like that next set of tight ends, or the difference between getting Kelsey and then all of a sudden getting stuck with somebody like, I mean, I guess I don't even know, somebody like Carr.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, that's not as much of an advantage as you think.
I still think it's the quarterbacks, even without negative scoring, and Kelsey being like a 200 points difference between the next tight end or something. I've seen a lot of people planning or thinking about stacking as well. Like you get Josh Allen early and then you stack him with Diggs or vice versa. And again, stacking in a weekly where you're starting your lineup, I don't emphasize it. I think it's easy to get in the weeds with a Scott Fishbowl because you have to be an unusual team to win that kind of competition. But by and large, you don't have to be that extraordinary. Draft who you think the right team players are. I would honestly say quarterbacks still win, especially early if you have an early pick. Towards the second half where you got that third round reversal, you again do mocks because you're going to get a better idea. It might be more viable. But early, in general, in drafts this year, even in Scott Fishbowl, early it's quarterback and wide receiver, and late it's running back and quarterback. So quarterback kind of get emphasized at both ends of the draft. But again, I would do mocks to get a better sense of what's going to happen for your pick, because those mocks are a lot of fun, and mock practice is just always good to do for a draft. It's also going to give you a sense of which team you want to build. I can talk about averages and who's going to provide you an advantage, but if you like the team build better of getting Kelsey, then Diggs, then Carr and Mac Jones, if you like that better, if that's how you want like building your redraft team, you're going to find how to do that best by playing mock drafts. And I'm not going to tell you it's not right. It's a hell of a large competition, so you kind of just have to go with what you think and build the team that you want to build. But in general, and that's how I lean as well, it's just quarterbacks early, and then typical see how ADP falls, try and lean on the positional advantages. The scoring changes a lot, but the basics are still true.
Yeah. Zach, if you drop your Twitter handle in this chat, I will send it to the gentleman who has the 108 chat. And get you added to that too. Sorry, I skipped ahead.
Oh yeah, definitely. Also, not going to say follow me, but keep an eye out. I will put out that Scott Fishbowl thing eventually, just to give you an idea of how the scoring on average works. I just haven't gotten around to it. Well, as soon as I find a source for ADP, I'll blame the ADP monkeys. It's their fault. Well, Gilchrist, I was offered Gibbs for Flowers and my 24 first. That's by someone who is not on the stream tonight. Okay. I think it's Gibbs. Flowers is in a different tier, and I'm not. It's even. If I'm building, probably Flowers on the first, but in a vacuum, I want Gibbs. I think he's going to do pretty well this year, which means value is pretty secure. Also, you get in that positional, very few young running backs. But if I'm in any way, like I'm mid or I'm trying to build, I don't mind just flowing it to the wind. Flowers isn't going to do as much for you this year because he's a wide receiver, but he should be pretty good. He's pretty okay profile. I don't mind him. And you're adding draft capital. So that's a team situation one, but it's fairly even. Zach, hit the other Zach up and he'll add you. Those chats are fun. It's the best part of it, meeting people and getting to know everyone involved, because then your part of the community grows a little wider. That circle expands. You meet more people that you like better than, say, me, and you have more fun because of it. So definitely advocate for joining those chats whenever you can. Phineas Clawford. That's what I'm going with. 12-team Superflex, 1.5 tight end premium. This is his team. He's got Allen, Burrow, Anthony Richardson, definitely stocked at quarterback. Jacobs, great running back to have right now. ETN, Akers, Swift, the undervalued lineup of the century. I like it. Hill, Adams, Higgins, Olave, Pittman, Addison. Your tight ends are bench fire, but you're shopping for the next good one. I don't mind it with Gesicki at the back there. Will bad tight ends keep me from seriously contending? How do I upgrade? No. Bad tight ends don't keep you from contending, but they do provide no edge. And what you're trying to do is eventually play block at the position. You're just trying to stream as best you can in a dynasty to try and block out any points that the other team is scoring. Now, the good thing at tight end is most teams are scoring not much at tight end. So, again, it's why it's relatively easy to play block at tight end until you find a much better one. It's actually the opposite extreme. If you have one of the few, if you have Kelsey, then he's providing an edge, and everyone else, it's a smorgasbord. It's a spectrum of who's doing better at blocking. You might, in an individual week, you might find upside by, that's the week that Pat Fairmouth scores 2 touchdowns, or Kittle just goes for a monster yards after catch game. So better tight ends are better. But it definitely doesn't keep you from competing just because you don't have a great one. No.
Well, and especially in this format with the team that you've got, that's going to be a very competitive team. I mean, you've got 2 hammers at quarterback, you've got a hammer and a half, maybe 2 hammers at running back if you add them all together. Your wide receivers are legit. Hill, Adams, Higgins, Olave. Right there is a heck of a 4. Addison, we expect to. So you're not contending. When I am in a half-point tight end premium or a 1.75 tight end premium, like Outhouse's leagues, I use my tight ends as my second quarterback. So I'll draft 2 like hammer tight ends and use one of the tight ends as my second quarterback if I can't, find one to stream. Because
it's a good idea, though. You have a good sense of your team. Like, that's a weakness. Yeah. You have some depth. You're competitive. I mean, look at the Travis Kelce team. Is he competitive? Kelce real old. Maybe he's interested. Or maybe in the season he's interested when he loses the first 4 games. I would take a swing at Andrews. But that's where you're at. You're either trying to get one of the few, basically Kelce, maybe Kittle, maybe Andrews, or you're trying to do exactly what you're doing. You're rostering a few decent shots at the back of your roster, and you're going to try and stream as best you can. So what's that called? Scattershot tight end. And that's the other way to go with it. But where you have some depth and you're competitive, you can consider trying to make moves at the right time if the teams in your league are open to it. But again, it in no way doesn't make you competitive. Good tight ends provide an edge positionally, but there are very, very seldom few that actually do that. And mostly everyone else is just trying the best they can, So no. Your team's strong enough, I wouldn't worry about it. And Zach Harris, again, is there a mock draft system that already has Scott Fishbowl? Yes. And there's plenty. In fact, if you join that chat, they drop like Discords, and they also drop mock drafts fairly often on Sleeper. I don't know if Andy's doing it or
he is.
He is on his website.
Andy Estridge. Yeah, Andy
What's
Estridge.
the name of that one again?
It is Fantasy Mocks, I think. Yes.
Fantasy Mocks.
Fantasy Mocks.
Follow Andy Estridge. His website has like an automated mock system where it's pulling in ADP, and you can kind of pick your spot and see what roughly happens. And it does has it tries to play with ADP, so it's a little bit different every time, but it's a really good process just to run through to get a sense of it.
And the guys over at Going for Two have a pretty good Discord with mock drafts running all the time too. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on who you are, they're mostly on Sleeper. And I don't have
Sleeper, I don't prefer Sleeper, but yeah, I'm an old people doing everything, but those would be my first go-tos. Those are the people I'd check out. And again, if you get in that chat, it's the other good thing about it. In mine, which is a 102, I know people are posting mocks and links to other sources of information and ADP fairly regularly because, we're all trying to have fun with it. So,
and don't ever apologize for asking questions in the chat that we're asking questions in. Have at it. More.
Otherwise, we're just sitting here like a couple of friends talking Dynasty. Randy Wyatt, 12-team Superflex, Points per first down, which is an interesting one for everyone. Quarterbacks too. So the 106, the 210, the 212, and 301 through like a lot of deep picks as well. For Kyler and Traylon, how'd I do?
You won.
I like it. Basically, it's not that the seconds aren't. I actually kind of like piling up seconds and using them to do things and taking shots when I can't. But basically, this boils down to like the 106 and some shots for Kyler and Traylon and the Superflex. Like that seems really strong to me.
Yeah. I mean, getting Kyler Murray for a single first is a win. Period.
By himself. Yeah.
And then you've got Treylon Burks thrown in, who's a lottery. Who's a lottery ticket, which a lottery ticket that we like. So.
Yeah. That's why I describe it. For what wide receiver would you trade Tua in a 12-team PPR Superflex? Who can I get? And it's about the trade, not necessarily about would I. Tua's got a really high value right now. He's going to be one of the middle class of tight ends, quarterbacks for a while. Think Phillip Rivers. Think Ben Roethlisberger, where they could provide you that edge in a single year for a number of years. Their values as they get older. Tua has a health problem, but I try not to comment on things I don't know about. So the question becomes, what Superflex quarterback should have real high value? So you're going for the top tier and you're working way down.
Waddle, Wilson.
You get Jefferson.
Yeah, you can't.
Can't get Jefferson, but you might try and explore some trades in if you have him spare, as it were, the Waddle, Wilson, Olave, AJ Brown, tier.
Yep.
Yeah. Depending on the source of ADP that you use or how your league ranks them, it changes. But I'd have you do rankings or the rankings that you follow, the ADP that you like, and I'd look for that second tier of wide receivers. Look for good, look for value, look for upside. Top 12 upside, not just good. So I'd actually put Wilson and Olave out of that, but they definitely have the value, at least.
You don't think Wilson's a top 12? You and I are going to fight over this. We're coming back to this next year, Peter, because
I think it could be.
This is going to be the Cooper Cup fight all over again.
This is not doing player evaluations, and I'm fine to take the heat. I try, again, put myself in positions. Russell Wilson last year. Aaron Rodgers could struggle going to a new system. It could take an extra year. I think players that have the full role in their first year that don't do it, and again, most don't. So they're really good. You're looking at Amari Cooper and AJ Green and Mike Evans. Like, these are great wide receivers, and I think that's where Wilson's at. But they, on average, have slightly later breakouts, and it's usually when the team when they're aided towards getting there. Now, there are some exceptions, like Allen Robinson, year 2, but I'd say the touchdown rate for Blake Bortles kind of caused that, and he's failed to produce off of that. And then you've got, who else? AJ Green, but like, betting Garrett Wilson on AJ Green, from my perspective, where I don't do as much player evaluation. I think he's a really solid rookie profile compared to historical examples like I do for my rookie evaluations. But like, I don't know. I don't know about that. And the team could struggle. I mean, we literally just saw Russell Wilson, one of the most efficient, the other GOATs of the quarterback class, go and really struggle in a new situation with good, young, promising wide receivers. I'm just betting the under. At their value, if I'm building, I've added Chris Olave, I've added Garrett Wilson. Very happy with it, because if it's just Amari Cooper, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. But if I'm not looking for that, if I'm looking for stay competitive, balance points per game and value, Jalen Waddle's in that tier, same value. I take Jalen Waddle. He's been in the top 12.
Oh, yeah,
that's nice. CD Lamb, that's all I'm saying. And so it's not a direct action for every team. It's really marginal in your situation, in your league. How do people, like, if the people in your league are like, Garrett Wilson isn't it? He was only a top 24 wide receiver, then the best move might be to add him. To be honest.
I was calling you out because you said Olave and Wilson aren't in that. I don't think they're in that.
Not if I'm looking for that kind of thing. Like, if I'm trading a quarterback, I assume it's to make my team more competitive this year because I've got him spare, which means I'll bet on the Waddle and the AJ Browns of that tier.
Do you think you could pivot and get Pitts and a pick, because Pitts has disappointed?
Yeah, you could also.
Grammar.
I'm just doing the same position here, but you're right.
But get the advantage at tight end and
or if this wasn't a tour question, you could be like, can I get Justin Herbert and bump Derek Carr up to Justin Herbert? That'd be fantastic for my team. And then, there are always other options. I hated making that video this week because it's true and it's something I want to know because I want to pay attention to it. But the value's right. It's like Flowers and Quentin Johnston right now. Like, I'm not adding them a lot. I don't dislike them, but I don't like them. And so it comes down to, let me see the trade, let me see your league, and then I might be able to give, I will be able to give a firmer opinion. But I also think it's really interesting information to look at players that like 20% target share and they didn't hit. You've kind of seen the ceiling year one more often than not. So it's not even, again, no player evaluations here. Just looking at what buckets they fit in fairly, I hope, reasonably defined. Paul Cicero, 18 PPR, start 12, just made a trade, sorry. Got Waddle and Montgomery, I like both, for JT and JMO. Downgraded JT, but I think a significant upgrade from JMO. I think it's balanced, and I think Montgomery's going to get you starts this year, so I like it. You're putting more of the value into the wide receiver position while maintaining a little bit of your points per game. I mean, JT is a little undervalued right now. Definitely like him. Again, just it's all relative, right? Not like having JT, but you're pushing some of that value into wide receiver and a really good young wide receiver. So I like it.
Yeah. I'd rather be on the Waddle side of it. It would be that trade, Paul, would be a trade that I would have tried to send Taylor for Waddle and a pick. And if I had to add something to Taylor to get to the pick that I wanted, I would. That's how I would operate that. But I don't dislike
Montgomery's
Montgomery.
Like a second.
I don't dislike that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you got to go with what your league mate's interested in as well. You might I'm not giving you a second. Like, I take the running back. That's fine. Mitchell Wood from the comedy duo. Should I be trying to follow the money and trade for Parker on the Pats? I don't think so. The extension feels incredibly random to me. Now, I got back and forth on this, mainly because the people that follow money in the NFL, they're sharp. I like them. Many of them are my friends. But I've yet to really see when it's the money points to a player that I don't think stands out particularly. I've yet to see it ever work out. Free agent running backs, undrafted free agent contracts, or Parker getting paid. I don't think so. I think I'd rather have Juju if I'm going to have someone on that roster, but I'm also biased in that regard. But I've never seen that he gets paid more, therefore it's better, without it already being very clear from other things. Like Devontae Parker been dominant in the last 3 years, it'd be a different question, but then you wouldn't be asking him about the money. So I don't think so, Mitchell. I really don't think it works out that way.
No, and
the better agent, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and the Patriots pay players to do things that they like specifically need in their offense.
He might have a rarer skill set.
Yeah, having a guy who can go down the field and make plays like that is not something the Patriots have, and they already have an established rapport with Parker.
Last year.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think that it changes the fact that he saw 47 targets in 13 games last year. Like it's not all of a sudden going to make Devontae Parker the number one receiver in New England.
Fair. Zach Harris again. How do you feel about James Cook in Dynasty? Actually, I'm trying to find a better one because no one wants to hear my anti-James Cook propaganda anymore, but he's the lowest ranked player. I am the lowest on James. Relative to ADP, all my fellow Dynasty rankers, James Cook is dead last when you compare my ranks to everyone else. I hate him, his value, literally worse than everyone else ever. Like, I didn't really like the argument for him last year. Like, who's pegged as this great receiving back, and he may have the talent. Like, he was a receiver, but it was not phenomenal. I wasn't looking at Swift's profile or Gibbs' profile when it came to receiver. It was like, oh, that's a running back who caught the ball a little bit in college. That was it. So I didn't really understand the take. And now this year, it doesn't matter what anyone says, running backs don't have inhibitors to volume. Like, I had to give up on Rashad Penny essentially after year one when he's since then been pretty good on a different team. And that's the one. That's the one where it happened. Like, I don't think he was working into the offense. I don't think that about Sky Moore. I don't think that about running backs specifically. And so I'm not buying it on James Cook. Like, I think he would have done something last year if any of that would been ready to come to fruition. I'm looking at their draft. They're like, they've gone and looked for other players that can fill that role. Doesn't feel like they feel strongly about it either.
No, and that's they ended up with Damian Harris, who will probably take some goal line work that Josh Allen doesn't take. It's not necessarily a knock at Cook.
I don't know the guy.
Other than I don't think that he takes a big enough role in that offense. I don't think he's capable of doing the give it here, and taking that role in the offense. I just don't think.
And then you've got that on that offense. Running back you want is Josh Allen. It's one of those teams, so you never have that complete upside unless they're Alvin Kamara. And he's not. So
everybody was super excited about Cook last year and about the way he played last year. And if you go full season, he finished between Ryan Robinson, who missed a fair stretch of the early season with a gunshot wound, and Kenyon Drake, who, if you're happy rostering Kenyon Drake, bless you. But man, like
he attracted as much opportunity as the guy who got shot. I don't mean to be too harsh, but that doesn't sound great. Out. But wish him well. I hope to be proven well. More running backs. Again, to go back to what Blue Chip said, I think this search for PPR running backs because we know it's a thing. We know to search for it. It's an edge, and people undervalue the targets, and the targets are worth more than carries. I think it might have gone a little too far. If James Cook is getting more talk this offseason than even Condre Miller, who I don't mind, or David Montgomery, to use a name we've already talked about, like the grinder running back at this point might be that deeper running back that you need for starts, just for starts. Because that's what running backs are about in Dynasty and fantasy in general. You just need starts, you need games, and you need someone to fill that spot.
And I also think that the grinder running back archetype is going to come back because, and we talked about this in the way the cycle runs, right now teams are small and fast on defense, which means they can cover those backs out of the backfield. It means that if you have a bruising running back, that's why Ramondre Stevenson was so like out of the blue, but fun to watch last year as a Patriots fan, because he's such a big back and such a physical back that all of a sudden the advantage was if you get him in space, he runs over that nickel corner and then
the defense is built to the receiving game. You'll like that interview with Blue Chip. He was basically on the same path of this is what's going on with defenses right now, and they're going to exploit that at a certain point. Don't know when exactly, but it's interesting to get in on it. Try and get in on it a little earlier. And that's good news, all you high T Dynasty players. The rushing running backs, they're gonna maybe pay off a little bit more than they have.
The super funny thing is we're still in a 0 RB phase. So everybody wants to draft receivers, but like getting in on running backs is actually more beneficial to you at this point right now. And so it's
those guys who fade
storm
because their grinders are actually so
that's free Scott Fishbowl advice, Zach.
It's all free. Grimly 1314 or 1,314, depending on how you look at it. 12 team Superflex PPR 1.5 tight end premium. Who you taking from these guys? Curtis Samuel, Shaheed. Oh god, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm a Tucker. I'm assuming that's the tight end drafted pretty deep.
It could be the running back.
Zay Jones, Jeff Wilson, and Shakir.
If it's Sean Tucker,
okay, that's interesting.
It's those three. It's Helaire, Tucker, Higbee for me.
And that's the way I make those deeper decisions. The further down the ADP I get, the more I switch positional trends. Like that's more running backs and tight ends come from this range that you're talking about that provide any kind of value. But I do want to keep an eye out. Like I do like Justin Ross. I like some deeper wide receivers. There are some shots I take. But that's where my head goes. And so CEH for that level of value, I could end up starting him in a week, but I'm no longer arguing he has the top 12 potential of his draft pick. But sure, CH, if that's Sean Tucker, I think he's interested. So that's where my head goes immediately. And then tight ends. And if we're playing Dynasty, Jelani Woods probably has the highest Dynasty upside in terms of value because he's just that second-year tight end with a combine profile. But I was kind of out on him. I just want to highlight him to you. Like, if you think he's better, you go check him out. If you like him, that's a really good Dynasty move. I'm on the Trey McBride trend, not the Jelani Woods one, so I wouldn't choose him. But it's an option here. The one that stands out to me that is different from, like, Jeff Wilson, I've already mentioned. Like, he's probably he could easily get starts this year unexpectedly. So Dynasty teams, so I'm interested in him too. But Zay Jones, this level of ADP is a little disrespectful for what he did last year, I guess, on that team. I think he's done. But if you're a big fan, and he's continuously too efficient, so he can just have a week here and there. But honestly, I would choose one of the running backs. So it's probably Sean Tucker. Yeah. But I just wanted to run you through my thought process, since that's what I did. And again, you can make entirely different choices. The things that I can tell you that are true, like are true more often and more common to help make your decision instead of choosing mine, is that you should be prioritizing running backs and tight ends in that range. Second-year tight ends like Jelani Woods, a really interesting Dynasty investment. So if you like Jelani Woods, again, pointing that out. And me personally, when I run through the evaluations of these players, I'm really interested in a lot of these running backs over Jelani Woods. And so I'm probably just taking a bet on getting some starts out of Sean Tucker or Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Jeff Wilson, probably in that order.
Did you see that it is best ball with 5 flexes? So that, like, which not. Again, it's to me that makes it, again, the Helaire Tucker. I still am on Higbee. I still think Higbee is a really nice boom bust tight end that I would love to have in a 1.5 point tight end premium, especially if it's best ball, because he'll have weeks where, man, he's just going to put up some serious points. And so that may be, he may actually bump to the top of that list for me. I think
that'd be fair.
Yeah,
I can cross the wide receivers out for you. And you should probably take a running back or tight end. After that, I'm all subjective understanding here. And you're right, Tyler Higbee, just in terms of starts, he gets targets, he puts up good weeks. I probably need a gap in my tight end position to go for Higbee over Jelani Woods if I'm going to go tight end. And again, I probably just default to running back here. But Higbee, it's a good point. And personally, Sean Tucker, would you say Higbee if you had to make a decision? I think that's really good.
Yeah, idea. I think I would go Higbee, Helaire, Tucker in that order.
All right. No, I think that's a solid option. Again, I have a process. I make decisions, but the decisions are just mine. Once I filter through everything, I can tell you the parts of it that are real that you should use as part of your decision process, and I try and separate the two, which makes me, non-actionable information and boring to listen to, but I think it's more helpful, so I'm going to do it. Paul Cicero made a second trade, got Kupp, Deontay, and Ingram, like all 3 of those players, gave up the 102. Wow. I don't know if this is a super flex. And the 208, 25 first. That's his team, but your team doesn't affect this for me nearly as much as what the 102 is. So if this is a super flex, I probably would have just taken one of the quarterbacks, to be honest with you. If not, to get more competitive, it's good. It's good. If you're a really good team and you look like it, I get it. I still probably want JSN.
I mean, it's either JSN or Gibbs or your 102 in a non-super flex. In a super flex, I think you probably got taken in terms of value. I will say that,
but not points per
man,
game.
that like adding Cup to a team that has Justin Jefferson and Higgins and Amari Cooper is nasty. Because like Amari Cooper sneakily, you talk about guys who had a bad quarterback last year. Like Deshaun Watson was terrible last year. Amari Cooper was a top 12 wide receiver. Like he was good.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing about the way I try and answer these questions, at least. I think this is a good trade. You made your team more competitive. You got the points per game. I think the dynasty answer, the best dynasty answer, the one that you could take receipts from and say, this works all the time, even though it doesn't, is probably one of the 102 there. And to take, if it's non-Superflex, Gibbs or JSN, I'd lean JSN if I could. But I don't think it's a bad trade. I actually think it's really good. So yeah, Paul, I like the trade. Scapegoat. I knew you were out there. I appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. No problem. But honestly, this part not hard work.
It's your fault, man. We appreciate it.
Can the Chiefs not just restructure Mahomes' ridiculous contract and pay DeAndre Hopkins? Seems like a huge need and an awesome fit. I'm surprised it's not done yet. I understand. I mean, I'm first. Yeah, the NFL can do whatever it wants with contract. Money is fictional, so are the contracts, so is the cap. They've got lawyers that make more than I will in my lifetime figuring that out. It's not a need though. They don't need a wide receiver. They've never had one. They always just work with a plethora of wide receivers who can get different roles done. And then there's Kelsey and Mahomes. He's like a Drew Brees or a Peyton Manning. He'll get it doing with who he's got. And if they're dominant players like Thomas for Manning or Sanders for Manning, or Jimmy Graham for Brees, they're gonna be ridiculous fantasy assets. Or like we were just saying with another team that I forget right now. The Patriots. You'll just find players working well in certain roles, and the fantasy assets are going to be Mahomes and Kelsey.
It's funny you mentioned the Patriots. We talked about the Parker signing.
Yeah,
everything that I have read right now about the cap implications of that actually freed up 3.7 million on the cap for this next year. That signing. So like again, it's not saying that they're doing something, but there's still some pretty significant free agents, Hopkins included.
Yeah, that's true. Your takes on Addison, correct. Appreciate you, Cypher. Got a real good feeling about him. Me too. And it's okay to go with feelings at some point. Like he just feels like the guy you can do those kind of trades for in season or right now, or you can draft. And further down the line, everyone who didn't is going to be like, I always liked Addison. I had him ranked really high. I just, ended up with something else.
I know we talked about this, but I am in Trade Addicts 11, one of Russ's leagues that had the startup this year, drafted rookie picks in the startup, and I ended up with the 105 or 106 rookie pick. And I tried to trade back and get extra value, and nobody would trade with me. And so I took Addison because I think that he is the player behind Bijan Robinson and the quarterbacks that I want. Like if I'm going to make a bet on these players, it's Addison, which I know it sounds a little hot takey, but it was that way anyway. Like when I did my film evaluation, he graded out a half a point higher than JSN, and the landing spot is beautiful. Like everything has lined up to me for Jordan Addison to absolutely smash.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I spouted love for N'Keal Harry, and a bunch of that didn't work. But as far as I can tell, he's good. He's really good. The only time that I haven't taken Addison, like overdraft him rather than trade back, I got stuck on the clock with the pick that should be Gibbs. Should be based on ADP, and also I think personally that's the best player to take in that league in that situation. I didn't want it. I wanted to go back and get Addison, and I couldn't quite get that done with my league mates. But then Jacob Rickrhodes is in that league. He really wants Gibbs. And he said, if you take Gibbs, I'll trade with you. What would you want? And I said, I don't know, Amon-Ra St. Brown? He said, yes. So the only time I didn't take Addison is because I got Amon-Ra St. Brown instead.
Yeah.
Technically.
It was the 105.
And that felt strong to me. Like, I hope Addison can be that level of player. So that's fine. I'm just getting him a year further into his career. And I already know he did it. So that felt strong to me. But like, other than that, like, I'm very happy reaching on Gibbs, reaching on Addison if I have to. But again, Gibbs should go. Like, that makes sense. But it's a mistake I'm willing to make this year. Like that good feeling cipher like you're talking about.
I always say, and I know people have kind of laughed at me because I say this, but I always say I break ties toward running back, so I'm taking Addison.
Like, said that about JSN at one point as well, if I remember right on my podcast.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
that was pretty awesome. Well, we got 20 viewers, which not that you're aware of or that it matters. We're happy to talk to one of you. We normally have 3 times that amount, which is fine. We're happy being with the 20. I'm only mentioning it because we're both tired and we're out of comments. So, like, we're happy being an early night if everyone's done with Dynasty questions for the season. But if you have anything, be happy to chat with you. You got anything you want to talk about? Got any moves you're planning?
I don't
tell you what, my Trade Addicts League team is still trashed. Like, I just kind of went nuts just for fun in my first year, and I've never built it back. I've slowly been adding value. I don't think I got Addison in that league. I got JSN. I offered him to Dynasty Outhouse, and he offered me like Brian Robinson in return, which I felt pretty for
JSN. Was he hoping? Was he hoping that you thought it was Bijan? Like, he was like, "Hey, B Robinson, maybe he'll misread that."
And don't get me wrong, on that team, I need the first, but like, I'm just no. I was surprised because I know for a fact because we've talked about it a lot that he is as high on JSN as I am. But yeah, that team's utter trash. I do have Juju Smith-Schuster, Josh Downs, JSN, Kyler Murray, and hopefully some draft picks because I had none left. Yeah, I got a couple seconds this year. That's up from 0, I'll point out, after a year's worth of trying to build it. Again, that's also because I went and got Kyler, which I think is a good value bet. I also have Bateman on that team. I have a lot of wide receivers I like on this team, which also might be why it's trash. Ended up with A.T. Perry as well. Like, he's one of those deeper wide receivers I will take. Like, again, lean running back, tight end by all means, but he's one of those mistakes deeper down that I'm just like, I'm probably going to make that. A.T. Perry and that other fella.
Tank?
I can't even remember our rookie ranks. Well, yeah,
Tank
but he's a lot earlier.
Oh.
Let's see. I actually have it pulled up. Look at that. Nice. There's A.T. Perry, and then those other wide receivers. Oh, Xavier Hutchinson. Again, we're talking 5th round players.
Yeah.
Which probably should just take a running back or tight end, but I've ended up with those 2 a few times.
But Perry, I don't mind taking the shot on in New Orleans, and like, I don't mind that. But
tell me about Puka Nacua, because I don't have a strong opinion. Like, I get it. We talked about him during the season and stuff, but like, some of the love he gets is like the end of the 3rd round right now, which is fine. I think that's fine if you're drafting wide receivers there. He's got athletic upside. But I remember you hating him.
No, so, like not hating him, but like
if it's not the numbers and it's not the film, what is it?
Like, not seeing what? Well, so okay, I'm not going to denigrate any analysts, but I think that
denigrate them. Go for it.
Well, no, but I think that sometimes, and a lot of guys go to either the Senior Bowl or the what's the other one? Like, there's another bowl that it makes me mad I can't come up with, because our friend of the show, Riley Bymaster, actually works for the other bowl game. But people go to these bowl games and they watch these players in the bowl games, and they get to talk to them and get to know them. And it's really hard to be objective. And especially when you see players like Puka Nacua just crushing it in one-on-one drills.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And a one-on-one drill is great, but it's not the same thing as 11 on 11, where all of a sudden you've got a safety rolling and you've got the corner forcing you back inside because all of a sudden they're playing a zone and you didn't realize that. So all of the little nuances and the ability to read the entire situation and figure out what's going on and still win, it's a little different than what you're getting in the one-on-one drills at the Reese's Senior Bowl. And like Nakua is fine. Like I can go down and give you what I saw. Like I thought he was versatile. He can be used on screen passes, sweeps, pop passes. He's got pretty good vision and contact balance once he's got the ball. I think he wins pretty well at the catch point, does a good job tracking deep balls. He's very intelligent and heads up. Does a good job if the quarterback's in trouble. He'll come back to the ball. He catches the ball very well, very quietly away from his body, and we like to see that because if you're catching the ball out away from your body, the ball's not traveling in on you, so you don't have the chance of you making a drop, but you also keep it away from a defender because you can kind of box out and make that play. But I don't think he's quick off the line of scrimmage. I don't think he's quick enough to separate off the line of scrimmage. I don't think he's got very sudden speed. He has to build speed up. And because of that, he struggles to separate against man. And when he's trying to break off routes, I don't think that's great. He has trouble reading cushion. And when he's given extra cushion, he tries to chew it up instead of like turning and making a play because he's given extra cushion. And if a corner is like right on him, he tries to break off that route instead of pressing the advantage of the corner being with. So it's like, man, he's kind of playing backwards that way. And I don't see him being a difference maker at the NFL level at all. And I know there are a lot of people who are really excited about him. I am excited to do a parody song of Hakuna Matata and do a Puka Nakua. So
for my part, before we get to the other questions, I do see you guys. Complete aside, but I keep getting tagged in AI is now in Sheets or Excel tweets, or I get DM them. And here's the thing: the whole reason I run through Sheets isn't because I'm I'm a data analyst or I'm a statistical guy. It's because I need to understand how it works to have an opinion on it. I have to engage on that level at some point. So like the whole value for me is running through the process of how is this calculated? How does this look different than this? The idea I just ask an AI and it would filter it for me or create it for me, like that would kind of defeat the point. So like quit. Not that I wouldn't appreciate the saving, but most of what I've learned from the process of trying to figure it out and build the sheet than I have the actual end result of what the statistic says. Just an aside, because I just got another one. Also, I had looked it up, by the way. Dalvin Cook trading for closer to a first in value. As far as I can tell, the last three trades, Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon for a 24 first.
That's about a second each.
It's about, 2 seconds don't make a first, though. You see what I mean? Anyway,
yeah, but a 24.
Khalil Herbert and Cooks for Dalvin Cook seems a little stronger. And then Dalvin Cook for Roschon Johnson in a second. That again, it's like a second, but it's not
like
quite
2 seconds.
It feels like a little plus. Yeah, feels like a little plus.
And at that price, I'm probably just shrugging, like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but
Scribbles
it's too much
traded
for
Higgins and a 24 first for Garrett Wilson.
I feel like you traded a 24 first.
I think that's a little
the same play, like not the same player, but the same production.
Yeah. Like
but
Higgins
again, that's
4, so there's not really a big value adjustment there.
But
again, if you're all in on Garrett Wilson, I could see.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might slow down.
And I don't like Garrett Wilson probably has a little bit more value, but not much. Not a first more. So I don't know.
But if you love Garrett Wilson, he's going to be fine. You're doing okay, but I don't try not to target players that I love necessarily. But yeah, it's Garrett Wilson. If you like him, you like him. Mitchell Wood, how do we feel about JSN in year one? I expect at least, at minimum, 600 receiving yards, had like a 14 to 17% target share. Like, I think he's going to go off at the second half of the year, and he's going to be startable in fantasy. Those are my expectations for a good rookie with that draft capital and that profile. Like, I want to see those things.
How disappointed are people going to be in a 600-yard seat? Like, that's disappointing, even though it's not.
Well, that's
even
the
though
thing.
We know that's good. Yeah.
It's how you define disappointing. But yeah, I think at least, especially towards the back half of the season, he might even be startable this year. But he's not Chase. We can't expect. I don't expect Chase and Higgins and Waddle seasons like top 12 overall finishes. Even last year, even though they were only top 24, like Olave and Wilson were providing you starts fairly early on. London was for the first 6 weeks, fairly unusual. Normally it's the back half at least. But like all of those were positive outcomes, yet none of them were top 12. So as long as you have reasonable expectations, that's where I define them. Like again, I don't think he's starting week to week over DK Metcalf or even Tyler Lockett, but I think he's going to impress by the end of the season. That's kind of where I'm at. Or he'll be injured. Hopefully not.
Pete, how many sheets do you have going right now?
That's the excuse I would take. I turn them all off. So, am I still? That's probably just because my hamster's getting tired. Let me see if I can close a few more. I guess Slack is running in the background. I'll turn that off.
You look good though.
I don't even have that. I don't even have that antivirus software anymore. I better turn that on.
Oh, are you like the 17 tabs on the top of your internet browser?
No, I closed it. I closed it all down.
Operate? Yeah,
very much. I'm trying to tear down on Hollywood. I think he's the wrong wide receiver to do it on. I love Hollywood Brown where he goes right now, although he has recently increased in value, so maybe I'm outdated and he's way too high now. I can't get a straight up pick, and I'm nervous he is at his value ceiling right now. Shoko, I think in season he has more room to go. I think teams will be more interested in him in season. He's a Tyler Lockett of his generation. Always underpaid for his points per game, even when he's young. Like, it's a weird group to be in, but that's Marcus Brown. So I think if you're looking to trade him, I think you'll have better luck in season. That's the first note. Second note, yeah, to be honest, if you will struggle to get a first round pick for Marcus Brown, which is part of why he's undervalued most of the time. So I agree that his value probably isn't going up from here, but it's mostly because people undervalue him in general. Like, I think we learned the lesson from Tyler Lockett and Marcus Brown, which is why Devontae Smith is carrying so much value right now. He would have been on that list, but we've figured it out a little bit. But Marcus Brown is still undervalued. But if you're looking to trade Marcus Brown, you do want a straight up first minimum, and I would say no to most of those trades. But if you're on a building team, do it. And timing is going to be in season. He's going to be scoring points, and people are going to be like, oh yeah, that guy who always, does pretty well. Okay, a first, and I'm competitive. So I imagine it's a back six first. You might even squeeze a second out of it or another player that you like in season. Right now, it's going to be really difficult because he's just one of those undervalued guys. He's never had the wind behind his sails. Case in point, Rashad Bateman, worst rookie year, even though he had a good rookie year, he got the hype. On the same team 3 years later, on a heavier passing offense for the same team, like they were passing more, Rashad Bateman did less on more opportunity, and he escalated in value. Marcus Brown did more than most rookies in his first year and came down a little bit, and he's never really moved up. And Marcus Brown is just one of those guys, so normally I go the opposite way. But sorry, I just remember doing that tweet earlier in the off season. Marcus Brown's just one of those guys people hate. But if you're building, I can get trying to take advantage, and in season's going to be better, which I said like 3 times now, so I probably got it. Scribbles again having trouble valuing Addison versus Dotson. Addison all day. Like I'd add a first to Dotson to get Addison.
I don't even know. So you said Dotson.
I like Dotson. I think he's decent, but
yeah, but proven talent is like he's fine. Like, he's not a bad wide receiver, but I don't
Yeah.
think, like, I think his ceiling is like back end of the top 24, as opposed to Addison, who I think
if we're
could
lucky.
end up being a top 12. Like, I think you could see a scenario in 2 years where Jefferson is the wide receiver 2 and Addison is the wide receiver 10, and we just kind of go, yeah, of course he is, because they're good. Like,
Obviously.
that to
He
me
was
is
good as a rookie. I loved him as a rookie, like everyone. Yeah.
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 So that, I mean,
And
that's where
Dotson's,
I'm at.
again, like we are just saying about Marcus Brown. I don't mind you liking Dotson at all. Like, I think we should like these players, but we still just try and beat the market a little bit. You don't have to push them up there with the guys I honestly think are much higher value. Like, if Marcus Brown was in that tier, by the way, I wouldn't blink. It's just I like him because he's not. And if he was, he wouldn't be my target in that tier. Like, I want Waddle, I don't even CD. But yeah. AJ Brown. Zach Harris, what would be a good tier down from Garrett Wilson? I don't think you do that at this point. But again, like I said in the video this week, I think Wilson and Olave, if you're in the right situation, in the right league, and you can get the right trade, so it's real specific. I think if you're on a competitive team and you can get Stephon Diggs plus a first, because that's where the value difference is right now, that seems good to me. Even Tyreek Hill, if you're that way inclined. Or you can go up to, who else is going below? Cup. Cup is below all of those guys as well. If I can get draft capital on top of one of these guys can get me points this year, really good points, plus draft capital.
Can we turn that up? Can we go really ballsy and drop from Garrett Wilson to somebody like Amari Cooper?
Yeah.
Or Christian Johnson. Kirk, and see if we can get 2 firsts on top?
Sorry.
And
in England, that's a swear.
Yeah. Let's see if we can do that.
If you can get Deontay or Amon-Ra, DJ Moore's, some people
I want
those two.
Amari Cooper, who I think again is probably a top 12 to 15 wide receiver again. And you could, I'm guessing you can get close to 2 firsts on top of Cooper for Garrett Wilson, or Christian Kirk, who quietly was really good. They should actually increase their offense. Like, their offense is going to be better this year. I like those 2 guys plus 2 firsts for Garrett Wilson. I hate to say it because I like Garrett Wilson, but I would make that move because I think you don't lose much in the short term, but you gain 2 picks long term.
Maybe grab another one.
Yeah.
And again, it's all about your team situation and what your league, where they're at in Garrett Wilson. But if the values remain consistent from ADP, there are a lot of moves like that I think are really interesting right now for Olave and Wilson both. And those are but though that's a value. Like, again, it's sell all running backs. Yeah, if you get a good trade, not if you're trading them for thirds, you know? Oh, sorry, there was more to that, and I just stopped reading. I need depth. Do you, though? But anyway, and he seems valued high. He is really top 12. In fact, I think he's over Olave.
I think he's like 6, wide receiver 6 right now, yeah.
Top 6 in Dynasty, maybe? And we're thinking about trying to get... That
Quentin
is a
Johnston.
move. Like, if you can't get Addison, go at Quentin Johnston on draft capital. I think that's a solid way of going. That's the opposite direction.
But it depends on
mine, but
that's the one to go. Like, Quentin Johnston is the way to go if you're not competitive. To me, if you're competitive, drop down to one of those receivers that are scoring that are really low value, and continue to score, but also add 2 picks to remain competitive. If you're not competitive, trade for Addison, and a first.
It's one of those things. It's where you're not trying to beat or outgame your league mates. You're just thinking about it as if this was a draft. And if your team needs more, it's okay to say, okay, well, give me those other picks further down, that Quentin Johnston, who's further down, and the 24 first that will be drafted after that tier as well. And I'll move down. It's not cheating them. It's giving them a really good thing, Garrett Wilson, for what your team needs right now. That's how we try and relate team situation. I think that's a really solid move. I'd offer it to the Quentin Johnston team if he's your Addison this year. I would definitely recommend it. Yeah. And they might say no, and that's fair too. Maybe they don't feel that's their team's in that position. Or they don't like Wilson. Grimley1314, would London be included in your video alongside Olave and Wilson? No. Well, no. Because Drake London didn't have like that full role, like that second half of the season. It got weird. Then it might have been about part of the team situation, but he wasn't filtering in terms of players that got well over 20% target share and seemed to hit their ceiling. The other thing is that he's not in that tier of value. He's closer to Treylon Burks than he is Olave and Wilson. So I don't think the same moves are available. But I mean, he is a good young rookie. So if someone in your league values him there, and you can get Amari Cooper plus 2 seconds, or you can get Treylon, Tyreek, and Stefan plus a first, one or the other. Yeah, you could try it, but just based on guessing what's going to happen in your leagues based on ADP, the source that I use, I don't think those trades are going to be as easy to find. But they could be. But yeah, I'd be interested in it. And same with the Quentin Johnston thing. Like if you can tear down from a good wide receiver on a building team, more draft capital for plus Addison or Quentin Johnston or whatever your favorite rookie is in that tier, I think that's possible too. But it's about where your team's at. It's about where your league mates are at on these players, because ADP can only tell me so much, essentially without doing ADP for your league. I don't know exactly where their heads were going to be at. But right now I can expect, based on Keep Trade Cut, based on DLF, based on Fantasy Pros, that Garrett Wilson and Olave hold significantly more value than Drake London right now, which just gives you more options to do some of these trades. But yeah, it's possible, but he doesn't filter into that group of players that we've seen perhaps their ceiling just based on he didn't get the full workload that rookie year, but he did do well. Scribbles, what should I get back for Jared Goff in a 12-team, 6-point passing touchdown Superflex league? First, it's about it. Yeah. If they're not it, quarterbacks ideally are worth a first, especially if they have. Jared Goff should start more than 1 year between now and the next 3 years. I mean, maybe the Lions will trade him or he'll end up in a different depth chart, but you can expect him to start somewhere over the next 2 years as well as this next year. So yeah, first round pick is relatively fair.
Goff is such a weird, because I think he's undervalued now. Like I don't think he's a good quarterback, but I think he's a good fantasy quarterback, and I think he's undervalued like now. Yeah, or back he was like Bortles when everybody hated Bortles.
Okay,
but Bortles was a top 12 quarterback.
Daniel Jones kind of fits in that category right now, but he just got a bigger contract, Cousins, so we can. He's Daniel Jones, but you can have more certainty that he's starting for the next 2 years exactly where he is. Whereas Goff, that second year, who knows?
But Goff has better pieces around him. So like, I almost would rather hang on to Goff unless my quarterback situation is just absolutely stacked.
I mean, to tell the truth, Scribbles, I'm looking for Goffs and Carrs and Daniel Joneses and Superflex Dynasty, especially 6-point passing touchdown where it's emphasized. Or I'm trying to tier up. Like, what can I add to Goff to go get the guy that I think is long-term starter with significant value? Like, what do I have to do, Mr. Herbert owner, to get Herbert off you? Goff probably isn't tempting enough, but maybe I have a player he likes and a couple firsts, and suddenly that's a move I'm interested in for my dynasty squad in the right situation. Goff's a little far to travel, to be honest. So I'd mostly just roster him and start him. But if I'm trading, just building, I value him around a first. If you can't get a first, can I get the 106 this year? Can I get Stroud this year? He's the undervalued quarterback in this year's draft. If you're desperate to just build, you could trade for a 24, 25 first because there'll be less value, but it's still a first. Would you think about trading them for a wide receiver on a building team like Addison or Quentin Johnston? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that if that's the way you can extract the value, of Goff.
The best way to find that which is better is one, talk to your league mates, develop those relationships, but do you go look at the rosters? Like who has those draft picks or those young wide receivers from the rookie draft that's already happened? What does their quarterback position look like? If it's good, they're not interested, right? They shouldn't be. But if you know it's John Hogue, I'll always approach him. If I'm trying to trade quarterbacks because I'm building, I'm like, hey, I got this guy, probably starts for 2 years. Can I have Addison? Can I have the 106? John's a little more likely to say yes to that trade. He won't because it's me, but I'll offer anyway. Because I know that about John. That's the way he's choosing or prefers to build most often. So yeah, again, outside of that, you just got to examine your league mates roster, see which team would be helped by Jared Goff in your best estimation. Don't explain it to them, please, because I've tried to do that, and there's no way of doing it without coming off condescending. But in your opinion, which teams in your league would really like Jared Goff for this coming season, maybe the next coming season, and then see what they have on their roster. Do they have a free first? Do they have one of those young wide receivers? What do they have that could help you out in return for something that you could think? That's the way I would try to find the best trade. Don't know why I'm going on it, but I think that's an important part of Dynasty. Just considering your league situation, who in your league would be interested in what you got, and what would you be interested in return relative to your situation at fair value. Not give me Justin Jefferson, I'll give you Goff. You know,
look at you all playing psychology and know your league, and I like it. He's not just a spreadsheet nerd.
I just steal from smart people and then pretend like it's my own, Zach. That's what I do.
I mean,
fantasy football ninja.
Leo, so yeah.
Well, you stole from him. I steal from you.
That's
it goes around and around. Thoughts on Desmond Ridder? Yeah. I don't do a lot of quarterbacks. I pretty much accept quarterbacks for who they are when they prove it. So I've been low on Justin Fields for a minute. I was questionable on Trevor Lawrence, but I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt based on that coaching staff. But Ridder is not very good. Like, I think he's a bridge quarterback at best. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to be surprised, but until I see that, I'm not going to think he is.
I am concerned for London Pitts with Ridder and the addition of Bijan Robinson, because that's been an Arthur Smith. Like, he wants to run the ball. He added a first round, a top 8 pick running back to a team with already low passing volume, with a quarterback who's probably not sustaining high passing volume. So yes, this is an indictment of Ridder, but it's the whole Atlanta offense outside of, I think, Bijan Robinson is in for a crazy year.
And to be clear, rooting for the player, like if Ridder goes off, I'll be one of the most excited, and I'll want the team to pay him, and I'll be all in on London and pay. Like, that would be amazing. And I'm rooting for it, and I'll look for it too. But again, about setting expectations, he looks like Jordan Love, but he got a start earlier, like that bridge quarterback that they drafted to do exactly that. I mean, he'll start, but you can honestly do better at your super flex spot with some running backs if you get enough of them, you know. Patience is a virtue. That's true.
It's true.
I believe I've heard that said. I don't have it, but there you go. Bullish on Cam Akers? Relative to what? I would say yes. Looking at ADP, like, I think you can make some great arguments for Cam Akers is more than this player and this player relative to ADP. I think he's deep down further enough on the way that I build dynasty teams. I can get really good starts out of Cam Akers if everything goes right, or a couple if everything goes wrong. And that's solid about the second round pick value he has. So I really like him, but like, I don't see, you know, multiple top 12 years in his future, you know? Like Damian Harris, Damian Pierce, Cam Akers. Like, I love scooping those guys up in those rounds, you know?
The funny thing is, though, in terms of the talent, I think Cam Akers is head and shoulders above those players.
I mean, he was a lot more than that when he first, to be fair. I mean, that's, again, you could make it easily construct a better thing, but I tend not, I don't play running back that way, but I easily could see, like, if Todd Gurley ever got healthy again, kind of an argument with Cam.
Yeah.
But that team's continuously disappointed us with running back usage, to be honest. So I'll ride the middle of the highway until then.
But it's an interesting, like you said, at ADP, it's an interesting play.
Yeah. But you don't even have to love him. You can just be like, that guy. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I would love to have a team where I came around like the 7-8 turn and ended up with Miles Sanders and Cam Akers as my running backs after I stacked wide receiver, like that would just be, that would be sweet.
Bullish relative to what a little 0T nerd zero running back kind of builder can be on a running back. Yes. Yeah. But thank you, Kerry. Mitchell Wood, JSON follow-up. Oh, welcome. Do we expect him to be startable in a startable number 5? My other receivers are Waddle, Smith, Ridley, Hopkins. And so I'm trying to figure out if JSN is good. Well, for a start, if this is a Dynasty league, Mitchell, like it does not matter.
Yeah.
That's not what you're asking for. Like you don't expect rookies to help you win in a single season, just as a general rule, but it's nice when they do. But yeah, I expect him to be startable at least by the end of the season, some weeks. Like you have confidence starting him as a wide receiver 3. With that roster by the end of the season. But I'm not going to say he's going to outscore Waddle or Smith, even on a week-to-week basis, because that would be too high of an expectation. But yeah, my perspective on it in Dynasty would be, I don't need that from him, but gaming at a reasonable expectation, he should be startable at some point. Yeah, even on that lineup.
And
what's up, guys?
That's another one where if there is not to wish this, but if Tyler Lockett were to miss time, like all of a sudden Tyler Lockett won the lottery, decided to go on a 3-week vacation, JSN should slide in and see, like he is. I know this is not a vacated targets argument.
No,
but he's really good and will drive targets if somebody is not above him to drive targets to them.
I mean, the get out of jail free on the way it works, so you don't need it, is like there's plenty of other players that get targets on a depth chart, and they just don't. Like the offense condenses into very few players when you have multiple great players. I mean, even Baltimore, that low passing offense, it's basically been 2 receivers for the last 3 years because they've had Andrews, Marcus Brown, and Rashad Bateman. Like, what? Just condenses all into those 3, or frankly, Lockett and DK Metcalf. It's why the tight end position when Noah Fant went there, it's not that Noah Fant can't drive targets, it's that that's where they come from. Deeper down, lesser dominators, if we like to use those terms, just no longer exists. That wide receiver 3, that tight end 2 who gets targets now and again, zip. They just dry up because there are so many demanding so much attention on the rest of their depth chart. And that'll be Seattle, fun stuff. Genji says, hey.
Genji?
Fantasy Football Ninja. Thanks. Anytime, man. Well, at least Wednesdays at 9:30 till close. Avoid Ritter. I mean, for what? But yeah, and I'm not particularly excited.
Shrug it, Ritter.
Fantasy-wise. It's like, you're probably starting your wide receivers and running backs in the super flex spot. I guess. What is Devontae Parker worth in start 15? Oh, that's a deep league. Got a 3-year, $33 million deal. Yeah, again, the money doesn't sway me much at all. But in a start 15 league, I could see how he's worth a roster spot, I guess. I don't think I've played in a league that deep in a minute. But I mean,
I'd rather have Romeo Dubs by a lot.
And he's worth a second. Like, I'm thinking a 3rd round pick, even that deep, because there are plenty of players worth a second that I'd rather have.
Well, so to put it this way, in current ADP, he's going behind Zamir White.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so not much, and I don't think the contract changes anything. I really don't. I don't think it makes him a better player. I don't think it makes him a better fit for fantasy in the Patriots offense. I think his fit in the Patriots offense and what they've asked him to do and what he's done for them has fit exactly what they wanted. Like, they want somebody who can clear the field out, go down the field, and make a play over the top if they need it. Yeah.
Like a discount Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
Someone said something interesting in my Discord, which is always happening, but Jay Bright, I think it was, No, it wasn't Jay Bright this time. But they pointed out, especially this time of year, a lot of the things we hear and we get excited about, especially on sleepers or deeper players, plays out all over Twitter and social media and even in ADP a little bit. But then when you approach your leagues, you find they almost have no value. And Parker kind of fits in that conversation for me. The player that might do something, we could be wrong, but if you ever try and act on it, even if they do something pretty well, you're never going to find anyone interested in them, because this is we're degenerates. We're on Twitter talking about fantasy football in June, and so we have interest, and then they have a good game, and you're like, give me a second, and everyone's like, no. And it's Devontae Parker, man. It's Devontae Parker. I listen to the fantasy footballers, not the Dynasty grind. I'm keeping it simple because it works more often.
And the problem with Parker too is how are you going to know when to play Parker? He's not going to see 8 targets a game or 9 targets a game or 10 targets a game. He's not the slot receiver who's driving a ton of targets. He's the guy who's going to catch 2 balls for 95 yards and a touchdown in the week that he's playable. And
I think you're not going to know when, but I think start 15, you might be starting a lot of those guys at the 4th or 5th flex spot, I guess. But I'll admit that. I'll acknowledge that, and start 15, he might just be startable because there's a lack of reasons to start anyone.
But a guy with 500 yards in 13 games, to me, even in I guess start 15, you're getting down there. But man, I feel like I could come up with better, like just roll out every Giants wide receiver there is over Parker.
Appreciate you, Gary. Thank you. Shimmy, any upside to acquiring Chig in a start 2 tight end league? I'm gonna let you go first because but the shark has kind of been jumped with Chig in terms of value. Like, I think Okonkwo played great at the end of last season for a rookie tight end. I think that he's got some upside, but he's still in that proletariat, that middle class of tight end that doesn't really matter in the chance of he's
him.
He's a guy you were hoping to catch before he was worth a second.
Yeah.
And if we missed him, that's fine. I think a second is fair ask, and it's fair to give just so you have one of those tight ends.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have other tight ends I prefer that value. I think taking the shot at Trey McBride, I think taking the shot at Deluche, who all operate around that value, is better. But if you like Chig, I think second's fine if you just need a tight end and that's where your roster build's at. But if you're probably not going to get it back.
if your league is active, this is one of those where, like, I might make that trade and then turn around and say I'll offer Chig and a third for a first.
Yeah.
Because you may be able to get that in, again, start 2 tight ends, and then all of a sudden you've turned your second and a third into a first, which you're happy about, because there may be somebody who sees you get Okonkwo for a second and they go, oh man, I would have made that deal. And then if you can turn around and use it, but if it's not an active league, I don't, like, a second is probably what his value is, but if you're not competitive, I don't think Chig becomes a game changer. I don't think all of a sudden in season you're going to get much more than a second for him.
I think, no offense, great season is his upside. If that helps perspectivize it. That's not a word, Pete. But that helps.
I like it.
I'm not expecting
Perspectivize.
Perspectivize. It's not a word. Pretty sure that's not a word. Although I am English, so we invented it. We can make up words, right?
You're basically Shakespeare. I mean, you can coin stuff.
Well, technically, I don't even think we can claim
YouTube breaks.
I don't think we can claim inventing it. English was just kind of. I used to describe it as a harlot of languages. We just take words. English is like, you got words? We'll take that. We'll make that English. French, awesome. We don't like you, but sure. Lots of French words in here.
And then they're also like, we don't have a word for crocodile, but we're gonna make one up because why not?
Why not? And also, these two words will just smash together every now and again from different languages to create a word like merge. Merge is actually a merged word, which I think is fun. We're just a that'll do, whatever works kind of language.
Start 15 is a lot.
Yeah, again, I can respect that depth. You're starting a lot of players, and Parker probably has a significant upside as most you would get that deep, but value-wise, it's a third and probably not getting it back at any point. Ryan Harvey, awesome profile picture. Isn't that the TV show thing? Anyway, what are your options for Devontae Parker the next 2-3 years? Opinions, sorry.
Yeah.
I just run through it. I think he's going to be a very deep starting wide receiver, I guess, when you're starting 15 players a week.
No, Adams. Adams, not Parker. Adams.
That's right.
You'll be. This will be.
We're going to cut.
You'll be much happier with Devontae Adams.
No one will know. Devontae Adams for the next 2-3 years. I think he's going to be Devontae Adams. No, I expect top 12 upside. He's proved to be insanely efficient in touchdowns, even with Aaron Rodgers, which is saying something. And he's done it with a much lesser quarterback. I mean, the value is gone. He's never going up. Yeah. And so team situations matter here. But Devontae Adams is pretty good. And we can expect at least another 2 seasons, probably another 3 at his age, if I remember right. Looking at the Adam Harstad value chart of how long players have prime years left. But you also got to remember that, again, the way I prospect out, should we call it perspectivize this, is that we're talking about value over 1 ADP and value over baseline is another way of saying it. How useful, how many prime years left, any points are they scoring over the replacement level in a single season. I think Adams has a lot of that left. I don't think he has any value over ADP left. You're not going to be having a season better than what you expect for at his ADP. And that matters in Dynasty. It speaks to the value again. You're never going to get a season that's so good where someone's going to be like, oh, I will add a first to what you are valuing him at to get him. So he's a points player at this point. But I do expect him to keep being able to put up points as long as he's healthy. And again, to dig into that, again, I just literally steal this process from Adam Harstad because it fits when I looked into age curves and how players develop in Dynasty. His seems to be the best, as far as I can tell. And that's mortuary analysis, which is essentially Devontae Parker's drawing a ball out of a bag every year. And if it's a black ball, he's not going to perform well. That could be injury. It could just be a bad year. Or a white ball, and he's Devontae Adams. But the older a player gets, the more black balls relative to white balls are in the bag. So his chances of hitting that year are higher. But he could easily pull that white ball out in any given year.
Did you just
that helps?
Did you just put Devontae Adams in a Shirley Jackson story? Is that what we just did? We just did the lottery?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm literally, as far as I know, and I can share the article. It's free. It's unpaywalled at this point. And mortuary table analysis of wide receivers or something from Adam Harstad.
Oh, yeah. No,
I read that thing like 17 times before I really got it. Because, again, he's mostly operating above my head. But that seems to be the best way of thinking about how players age in Dynasty. Yeah. And again, it's not roughly what I see. Yeah. Players don't arc. The arc is just it's a sample size problem. If you have a lot of players that fall off or hit that black ball, being included with all the players who kept drawing white balls. Larry Fitzgerald, for example. There are a lot of Larry Fitzgeralds. Not that deep, not quite. There's only one Larry that went that deep that well. But that's
Jerry Rice was pretty good for a long time. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can go to like literally Jerry Rice and you find another one. Okay. But yeah, that's the way I think about it. So I hope that helps you too. That's how I run through it. Nick Luringer, trying to decide my final 2 keepers in my 14-player keeper league, and I'm looking to compete this year. Currently planning on keeping Samaje and MT. Other options are Warren, Jeff Wilson, Dubs, and Gainwell.
Dubs is the one that I would have.
I was going to say that. I was thinking in a keeper, I have less incentive to keep Dubs because I want to keep MT. And Samaje is a really good haul. Yeah. So if you can keep 2, I think you're okay. I think Samaje and MT are the right 2.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
MT. I mean, MT can literally just be done with a sport at this point. We don't know. He could just not choose. But I think there's more upside in MT if he does. And if you're trying to compete, that's what matters. So I think you've got the right 2 there. But, bug in your ear into that Dubs. Maybe.
And I think, Peter, I think that's the mindset is the range of outcomes with Michael Thomas is top 12 wide receiver, not in the league. And
Yeah.
and the range of outcomes with Dubs is like maybe top
Startable.
24 wide receiver. Yeah. And
Not
maybe
startable.
nothing. Yeah. So
maybe startable in 3 weeks.
yeah. So
Um,
I am with you. I
yeah, shoot for upside, especially in a keeper format. Nick,
yep.
you're just asking because you don't want us to be sitting here quietly, and I appreciate you. You already knew the answer, but I appreciate the question, man. Genji, Parker is 100, wide receiver 123. I didn't even know we went that deep, but yeah.
Yes. But
Sterling
that's what
Shepard.
I said. Go get all the Giants
That
wide
deep?
receivers. Like literally go get the Giants wide receivers. That's the way to go get.
Who's the undrafted free agent who had like 3 good weeks? Phillips? Something like that. Yeah, get him too. Why not? Appreciate it, guys. Also, my profile picture is Zach. Oh, okay. Nice. He's looking stiffy. Or Robert Woods. I have a Christian Kirk is Nate Washington / Robert Woods take boiling, and I'm trying not to say it because it's a little unfair, but things keep reminding me of it. Yeah. Deep again. I can see how down that deep any wide receiver who's done something who can have weeks. That's it's worth acknowledging that your opinion should change relative to your league. If you're starting 15, suddenly a lot of deep wide receivers. Again, I think Dubs is slightly more interesting, relatively similar value or higher value. Fantasy Football Ninja going to start a live stream. I can't say that word. Superflex draft. If anyone wants to join and watch and continue the convo in 10 minutes, that sounds fun.
It's the Puppy Bowl. I just did a parody last week about playing on Underdog.
No problem. Thank you, Fantasy Football Ninja. I hope you enjoy that draft. Open 24 hours. Homies. Hey, welcome back. We were missing some of the OGs. What's going on? How much would you pay to upgrade Fields to Hurts? A lot. Personally, I'd add 2 firsts. 12-team Superflex start 10, 1.5 tight end premium, Fields, A-Chain, Kincaid, or Hurts. Too much? Fields, A-Chain. No, I would do that.
Hurts.
Yeah, I want Hurts. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, next year, you could look at that and go, they got a free A-Chain and Kincaid because Fields could be in that Hurts range. But that's a could
He's
be.
taking the risk. You're taking,
Hurts.
And that's a fair trade. Yeah. I side with the Hurts there. Can we make it difficult for you, though, Zach, and say instead of Kincaid, it's Laporta? So suddenly...
I still think
how much tighter does that make?
No, I still think it's the same. It's the same thing. And you're right. I do prefer Laporta to Kincaid. And so does
honestly, I
George
just
Kittle.
like pointing that out because I think it's a good idea.
George Kittle and I actually sit and watch film. All my rookie evaluation is really from George Kittle, but
I figured he was just stealing. He's listening to the Dynasty dummies.
Yeah. He's not allowed to do that because of the optics. So he just kind of feeds me all the rookie evals.
I figured. Rambo. Whoa, wow, famous. Late to the party tonight. You're more than welcome anytime. Ayuk equals or greater than Dots. Ayuk. I want Ayuk. Dotson's should be below Ayuk.
Yes.
Significant amount.
Yeah.
I mean, I expect more unusual breakouts is another way of talking about a wide receiver. And Ayuk, 4th-year post-hype sleeper break, like, yeah, I kind of like that. And if not, he's just Brandon Ayuk, who's a really good player, who's been in the top 24 outside of that one rookie season where he's down there. 15 points per game, top 12, or close to it. So, yeah, Ayuk has got the floor and the ceiling there for me.
Yeah.
Genji knows. Void Chig like the plague. I mean, I don't know he's infectious, but that's fine. Trey McBride is a good sleeper tight end, and Gesicki, good values in later rounds.
Agree.
I think Gesicki, certainly. Trey McBride in Dynasty, you're going to have some idiot like me in Dynasty who's just had Trey McBride in the back of his mind for 2 years now. But Gesicki, even... It doesn't matter who your league mates are. You're probably not having to do a lot to get Gesicki. And I actually heard J-Mike on your show mention him a few weeks ago. And J-Mike sharp. And Gesicki's been fine. He's not really a tight end. He's a wide receiver, but he gets listed as a tight end, so it's fine. And like literally not
So-
some tight ends and wide receivers, not the Kyle Pitts take. He literally just runs wide receiver routes. That's from Tom Kissingberry, who tracks that fairly effectively.
But that's what the Patriots are trying to do, is play
Hunter
that
Henry
have that H back with Hunter Henry as the inline tight end, and
That's
then
why
all
they
of a
keep
sudden
adding them.
create mismatches. Yeah. They've gone away from the fullback back to this H back tight end.
I mean, they
hybrid
went
thing.
for Jono Smith and Hunter Henry, and then now they've just like, okay, they're done. Gasecki, let's try him. And yeah, very good take, I think. Anyone on the same page with J Mike is okay by me. That's the guy from the Pawn Stars.
Pawn.
I don't have another way of saying that word. It sounds the same either way. But yeah, that's all right. The show about the shop that buys things to sell things. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't spell some good Genji. I don't spell either. It's a known fact. I agree with Dotson for sure. And Hodgins, yeah, Isaiah Hodgins, that was in. I mean, why not? He's probably worth what? Nothing. If you're just looking for those deep 123rd deep wide receivers.
But again, so that was last year, and I know that this is kind of a funny, but like last year I finished second in 3 Dynasty leagues. I lost 3 championships with the Giants wide receiving core. So Hodgins, Richie James and Slayton. Like literally that's what I was rolling out. But they were putting up points. Like it was gross, but that's what it was.
Sense.
Yeah.
Ryan Harvey, on a competitive roster, which wide receiver would you move for a running back? Always a delicate question. Cup, Adams, Keenan Allen, Hollywood, Ayuk, Bateman, Quentin Johnston. Well, no. Quentin Johnston, no. Unless it's like Bijan Robinson. I currently only have Josh Jacobs, which is great. That's a great start. Elijah Mitchell, it's fine. Hunt, free agent. Jeremy Ford is actually a really interesting deep roster. I think you've done well there. Just, again, roster running backs who have potentially passed the starts. I like that. Okay. Some of that's going to come down to the situation of your league mates. Anyone looking to trade a running back, theoretically, you know your league better than me, and they know themselves better than both of us, so maybe ask. But theoretically, anyone looking to trade a running back isn't interested in Cup or Adams or Keenan Allen broadly. And again, Hollywood's a little undervalued. And so really you're looking at Ayuk, Bateman, Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston, it's not my favorite rookie from this year's draft class, but I just think it's a bad process to trade a rookie for a running back. Because you're just going to be burning too much opportunity. I love Bateman, but I think Bateman and Ayuk are your best bets here. Running backs to target with those guys, they've got youth. Ayuk's got serious upside, seriously. As the guy who was out on him that 1 year, I think that matters when I say he's got upside. Like, I'm not saying it just because I've been on Ayuk forever. You're aiming for points with age because that's what that team is theoretically more interested in. So ideally, Nick Chubb, but if the Nick Chubb rosterer is in a seriously bad situation, they might be interested in an Ayuk or a Bateman because youth. But that's probably a little too high. Austin Eckler, everyone always seems ready to trade away Austin Eckler.
This is one where I would be like, okay, I'll give you Bateman in a second to the DeAndre Swift owner and see if I could do something like that.
I was gonna say Swift. I didn't think he carried that much value. I thought Bateman would be enough. That was going to be my next idea.
And if
like,
Bateman's
if you really want a running back, Swift's an interesting one.
So again, I know that Swift hasn't been able to stay healthy, and I know that in Detroit he wasn't given but a similar skill set to Miles Sanders, but a better skill set than Miles Sanders.
He's better receiving.
Yeah. In that Philadelphia offense where Miles Sanders just went off last year and saw a lot more volume than Swift ever has, that it looks to me like that's a really nice landing spot for Swift.
No, ever since that move went down, my ranks have been insanely high on Swift.
Yeah.
I'm not a big running back. I was like, what's going on here? And it's just because everyone's like, oh, only a top 30 running back now. And I'm like, really? You don't even expect top 20?
Yeah.
And so that's the other reason I was going to go to him. Because he's not even that old. You're not even trading into just this year kind of ideas. And he's going to be startable. I hate trading Bateman, though. But I think for a competitive for this roster, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. If you could get Swift for Bateman plus a second or just straight up Bateman. But again, this is why I don't think the go get this player thing works. If you go look at the Swift team and they're a young team or they're a highly competitive team, they're going to say nuts to you, Rashad Bateman, and which is where Ayuk might be more viable, or they might be more interested in Cup, Adams, or Allen. But thinking on average what that team might look like, it's probably Ayuk or Bateman. But again, I rarely try and find the player that I think is going to disappoint and then go get the player that I want. It's more about what do I have that I can afford to give away, and then what type of player am I looking for? Then I go look at those teams in my leagues and see if they'd actually be interested in that kind of move. Or you could literally ask them, but I don't like talking to people. So I mostly just try and assess their roster. Not you guys. You guys are fine, but people, nah.
Overrated.
I hope that helps, Ryan. That's how my thought process runs over it. If you want a second perspective, that's the best I can do. How my mind works. 10-team league.
Yep.
Swift. Everything the same there. Although it does matter. Assuming I have 2 24 firsts and 4 24 seconds. Are there any specific players or positions to target that may gain value in more than physical pick? I'm rebuilding and shredding points is nice to tank. I mean, everyone's got a list of players they like more and less than average. But if you've got picks, I wouldn't be desperately trying to trade them away. But the moves I've heard lately, that the ones we were discussing earlier, I love the idea. If you're probably waiting in season, but if Addison disappoints or doesn't do much early in the season, go get Addison with one of those picks. I like that kind of move with picks, but I can't say I've executed that a lot. Like in my leagues, like the guy in my DLF league still won't give me Juju. Like for 2 straight years, I've been offering way too much for Juju, and he's like, I'm going to see him running out. Because that's just where he's at, and it's his team. He's allowed to do that. So it's very league specific. I do write up that article that suggests what ranks are suggesting the players to go get. And I finish every podcast with the same question, which is every interview podcast, what is the one move that you want to make? For 24 picks, I just desperately want the first thing I say to be, you should just probably keep the picks. But if you can get values on some of those young players that disappoint early, I'm interested in that. If you can get Rashad Bateman for a second, though I don't imagine you can do it in most leagues, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in Rondell Moore for a second as well. Those are the players I think, but they are points players. They have to do something this year, but I think they could. The other move, if you're on a fairly competitive roster, we just mentioned Ayuk. Like he's fairly young, got a really good floor. I think he has upside this year. So like, what's that team look like? What move can you make at fair value? Ayuk's probably worth more than a first, but you don't really want to bleed 2 first into any trade when you're just looking for value upside. The picks are more consistently going to be the value gainers and just more interesting to more teams. But those are some names that I might approach. Could even try Cup hits, I guess.
So the inner rebuild and shedding points is nice to tank. What I would be doing is looking at my roster, trying to figure out if I have anybody who is worth a second round pick, and then trading them and one of the seconds and trying to tier up to a first and maybe a second in another year. So if you already have 2 24 firsts, let's be looking at 24 firsts.
That's honestly a better, again, you're right. That's probably the best way to start, where you're looking to tier up your value. That's essentially what you're doing. So what players do you have, and start from there rather than here's the picks that I have. What can I go get for them? And you're trying to get more first. You're trying to get younger players. But I really do like that idea because it's so simple that, it's just a good move. If Garrett Wilson disappoints by week 4, if Jordan Addison disappoints by week 4, if JSM is slow, I really think people are going to hold that value because we're quote unquote expecting a slow year. But Addison's definitely one. If you are really big, I think Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers could also do the same thing.
But and this is one of those things where they're not mutually exclusive. So, Shimmy, right now, I would be looking to acquire more first. Take my players, trade a player and a second to get another 24 first, a player and a second to get another 24 first in 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the season. If you see Addison, the value drop, Addison hasn't come on yet, and people are starting to get restless. If you see that with JSN, the people that Peter mentioned, all of a sudden now you look at those firsts, you go, okay, well, I'm already 4 games into the season. This first looks like it's going to be lower later. Let me trade a first to go get Addison. And so now you've done both of those things. You've got a player who is a higher first in a better draft class that you're excited about, that you just went and got for a second, that you turned into a first that became a later first. So like, if again,
tearing up is a great way to go. I'd also say, just again, words of caution. Like, you have to get it right with those moves. It sounds easy when you say, like, Garrett was, obviously, if I could have done that, which is why I say in season you might find more windows, but you do have to be right on your profile, which is why it's a fair trade. But you can go in hard. Like, if you have Adams, speaking of who we were just breaking down, or Tyreek or Stephon Diggs, like, they're winning the trade if they give you a first plus that disappointing rookie through 4 weeks. Like, it's a fair trade, and they suddenly might be interested in it. I think even if you approach them with those trades right now, people will be like, I don't really want to give you a first just to give away this good young player.
But when Adams is scoring,
But it is honestly a fair trade for a team that's competitive. But they will know they're competitive in season, and hopefully maybe they're just a little, well, he hasn't done anything yet, and so they're a little more interested in it. It's still looking for a fair trade, but its timing can be an issue there. But outside of that, Treylon Burks. But again, that's where you have to be right, and where we have one bad year. I try not to make that trade anymore. Even if I'm in on Burks, I'm trying not to give up firsts for it. So a second plus one of my players, that's Davis. I don't know why I always go to that, but some mid-level starter, I will take that upside bet on Treylon Burks as well. But you're trying not to give the first, because if you get it wrong, it has to be well balanced. Because again, it might turn out to be not Garrett Wilson. Maybe you're a big fan of Terrence Marshall. Maybe you're a big fan of N'Keal Harry. I made that mistake after his first 4 weeks in his rookie year. So I learned to balance the trades a little better. Even if it goes wrong, it was still a pretty decent trade, And they're getting the other thing, which is why it's a fair trade. They're getting Adams. They're getting Cup. They're getting Genji knows. Just flip Jerome Ford for James Conner.
Yeah, I like that. If you're trying to score points.
Solid. Yeah.
I think Conner scores points. So
yeah, he's gonna at least get touches. So and that's what we want. Jassy, how are you doing? Hey, hello. Superflex 12-team start 10, 2.5 tight end premium. See, we started too early, I guess. We started 10:30 last week, and so now all the people are regularly here. Like, I thought it was 10:30 now. Which side or who needs to add or subtract? Non-contender, Olave, Sanders, Pierce, 25 mid-third. For A.J. Brown, a 25 first, late, and Zach Charbonnet. I have to break that down in my head first. That's a big one, relative to me. Olave, probably just... if you're a non-contender, the Olave side probably looks like the best straight off the top of my head. You're not getting a first with A.J. Brown. It's hard to call that bad.
Yeah, I think it's the A.J. Brown side.
Yeah, that's one of them. The only thing I'm hesitating in here is a non-contender. If your team's non-contending, you probably lean Olave. But Olave for Brown on a first, I think is a really good move right now in general. Well, I think it's the AJ Brown side. Can I just ask before you give a better breakdown than I always do? Javonte Williams or Zach Charbonnet? I kind of lean Javonte there, but I was wondering what you thought.
Yeah, I think it's Javonte Williams. That's a tough one though, because it's running backs, and Javonte Williams is already 2 years in, even though you haven't seen him play. It's a tough situation. I think Javonte Williams is a better running back. The value is such a toss up between those two players. So,
They both kind of have to score points this year, though, to be fair. So kind of lean Devontae.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. I lean Devontae.
And again, so I think it's the AJ Brown side on this trade, even though you're right, Olave for a non-contender doesn't score as many points as AJ Brown and is younger. But if I'm a non-contender, I am trying to trade Sanders and Pierce in season, because I think you get more for them, because they're starting running backs. They're going to be scoring points. And although you're not going to get more than AJ Brown in a first. So
yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a well-balanced trade, Jesse, would be my takeaway from it. I think you can judge it based on team situation. In a vacuum, non-contender, I still lean AJ Brown in the first. It's AJ Brown. And I got a first, so I feel pretty comfortable. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Interesting question. Thanks.
Yeah, but I don't think it's first, right? I don't think it's like a huge. I don't know what you would have.
It's not like a walk-off win.
Yeah, what would you have to add to the AJ Brown side to? Not much.
No, I think it's very well. I think it's well balanced, and you just lead on the side that you lead because of the way you typically build more than anything else, which is why you ran the first for me.
Brown side, we get the stack, which doesn't affect very much.
It's nice.
I've seen research, and this is with best ball, season-long best ball leagues, where the stack gives you a 2 to 3% advantage, literally 2 to 3, which is not much, but it is some. But it's not something.
And in a competitive tournament, you might lean on that kind of edge.
Yeah.
But in regular leagues, you're like, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not something I'm going out of my way to do, but if it happens kind of organically, then that's nice. But AJ Brown in the 25 first, to me, is the side that I want to be on.
Seems pretty solid. It's tough to do Swift because this is the first season, and Swift went at it's always difficult to do trades immediately after a draft because people who want them mostly got paid more than anyone else is willing to. So that can be difficult. Unless I selected Bateman at 10.06, yeah. That Swift owner probably isn't going to be interested in that.
Yeah. So that's a tough, So then Ryan, go look at the.
You don't have to, but it does. Sorry, I was going to say you have to adhere. You don't have to adhere, but I get what you're saying about knowing your league mates. But it's more about literally they just told you they value him well over twice as much, so you already know that this is a non-starter or they're adding something really significant. Unless they heard some take on Bateman that they're like, oh, I got to go get Bateman, which they don't listen to me, so they don't.
So then, Ryan, go look at your startup draft. So and then figure out the running backs that are within 2 rounds of Bateman on either side, and then figure out which running backs you're interested in and see if you can move into one of those.
I would open up the sheet to pull up my results from running back for you from the last time I wrote that article up, which I think was 2 weeks ago or so. But the 3-month graph. So Damian Pierce, if you just want a running back that's going to get you starts, James Conner was another name. Those guys probably weren't drafted too high in your draft, but that's why if you're valuing this startup ADB, you can go look for those running backs. So for you in your situation, those running back starts you think matter more. And you might find 1 or 2 that fell, that the other team isn't, again, the highest on because they got them at a reasonable ADP and didn't reach or weren't willing to reach. That's probably the best advice I can give you to go and find one. Outside of that, draft running backs to that second round of the rookie draft, play the waiver wire, just roster as many running backs as you can. Because we'll find others. That's the thing about the running back position. David Montgomery, check him out. Actually, this off season, you've recently done the startup. Dave Montgomery trade might have happened before or after it. Yeah. Thanks for all your great work, guys. Hope your weeks are going well thus far. They are now. I'm talking to you, Lance. No, I appreciate it. Thanks very much. And more than welcome, but this is seriously fun, so it doesn't feel like work. Would you do Bateman for Charbonnet?
I'd rather have Bateman, but
I prefer Bateman. I get that you're looking for running backs, but yeah.
I mean, if you get Charbonnet plus, then yeah.
Rashad White's a good name.
That's an interesting one.
ADP is actually really low.
Yeah, which to me tracks. Like, I don't love Rashad White. I don't love the Buccaneers offense, but he has as much up. He has as much upside as anybody. I can't look at that and say, nah, he's going to be terrible. I look at that and say, there's a chance that he's gonna smash. Like we could be in the Baker Mayfield can't throw the ball more than 7 yards down the field, and guess what? Rashad White is going to be closer than 7 yards down the field, and so that's going to be beautiful. Like, I could see that being upside. Aaron Jones is a good one, Genji.
Yeah, I think that's the other one from my article. I am not that Genji got it from it, but Rashad and Aaron Jones are both possible. Again, check the ADP. What was I going to say? The difficult thing about Rashad White for me is he makes my breakout chart, my breakout calculation that I'm doing for those videos and the articles that I'm writing up about breakouts are more common applied to this year's class heading into this season. But the running backs so far have been working at a less significant, like wide receivers kind of freaking hit it last year. But like last year, it was Miles Sanders, good. But also AJ Dillon, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire made it deeper down the depth chart. And just I can't lean into it. But technically, since I'm a nerd, technically works. Rashad White's kind of based on his results from last year, his draft capital, and heading into his second season, technically should be a good breakout year for him. That's why he showed up on my radar. What side would you do? 12 teams with flex, tight end premium, Fields, and Lamar for Hurts. Danny Dimes and Madison. Wow. The super flex, there's a lot of quarterbacks flying around here.
That's a big boy trade. It's Fields and Lamar, but that's some close.
I'm tempted just by the player I rank highest is Hurts, so I want that side. No, you're right. I mean, Danny Dimes is going to be startable. Fields probably has more upside. And then you got a running back starter this year. Alexander Madison. Add him to the list, Ryan. Yeah, I think I just take Hurts. I've been keeping it simple for myself.
I don't hate that, but I'm going to take that swing. I'm going to take the swing. I'll take Lamar and Fields. There's so much upward mobility with those two. And
that's fair. That actually should be expected. Like, I don't take swings on the quarterbacks. I wait till they're there and then go up and try and get them. And you're willing to take the swing on Fields. I think that makes sense if you know what I mean. Like, I'm less likely to take a swing on the upside of a quarterback till I see it. Unless they're really, like Hurts was one that was so far drafted. His ADP was so low. Fields and Lamar. Okay, I'll just disagree with you guys. Fine. What's up, guys? What's up, and S? Love me some Penny. He's so cheap. Yeah, but I'm looking. I was assuming Ryan, especially since he's trying to get. He was looking for a little bit more certain volume, but yeah. If all else fails, give me Rashad, not Rashad, but with an S. That's clever. Penny over White. Nah, I think I'd take White, but I appreciate it. Appreciate the stance. When healthy, Penny starts. This reminds me of his rookie year and me tweeting every week Jake Anderson about how he was outperforming who was it? Chris Carson on a per touch basis. And yeah. I get you. Rashawn White is I think it's a good bet, yeah. Ridley or a late 24 first, non-PPR. Oh, non-PPR. That affects it. Probably the first. Actually, PPR or not, it's the first. Don't know why. Yeah, it's the first. I don't think if you can trade Ridley for a first straight up in Dynasty, it's probably the first. We liked him earlier when he was less. He was not a straight up first.
So I would rather. It looks like I have Olave, Smith, Addison, Pickens. I want to compete. I would rather trade Pickens and the first and go up to the next tier to go get like St. Brown or Waddle or one of those players. Then I mean,
if we can just invent moves, Zach, yes, that's good. No, that's
well,
really
I mean
good.
that like it's.
No,
I
that's really
assume
good.
I assume that Adam has Ridley.
Yeah.
Or I mean has the first and is trying to get Ridley, but to me, I would rather take Pickens and add the first and tier up than I would
even
add
further
Ridley.
up.
Yeah,
solid.
And
if you want to
honestly,
compete, then
like
it's Ridley.
not non PPR, even like I think Higgins is a fun player for non PPR. T Higgins, yeah, but
yeah. He changed Madison to Pierce in that QB trade. Same thing, but yeah. I'm just saying for the value, Penny, yeah, relative to value, I could understand it. But again, to your point, Penny's significantly further down.
Right.
I think, last time I checked. It's still Lamar of Fields. I get it, Genji. Stop rubbing it in. I disagree. It happens. Non-Superflex. I think we covered that. Non-PPR and non-Superflex.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah. No, same. Yeah.
Same thing. 2 elite QB. See, I don't.
So you have Ridley.
So Fields there.
But Adam has Ridley. What? So why are you trying to? If you're trying to compete, I want to compete. Why are you trading Ridley for a late?
I mean, you don't have to hold points players just because you're trying to compete, to be fair. And in a vacuum, yeah, Ridley for a first is a good deal, even for a competitive team. But it depends where your head's at. Like if you want to be competitive this year, Ridley helps you out a lot, I think.
I would still rather trade Pickens than Ridley if I'm competitive. I think Ridley outscores Pickens and Pickens carries more value.
No, I think you came up with the best move. Add a first to Pickens and go get T. Higgins. Yeah. I think that's
or trade Pickens for a better first. You may have more market for Pickens than you do for Ridley.
That's fair. These words, we act like we know what they mean, but they can mean anything.
Well,
I'm trying to take it as often.
To me, competitive is to me like we're.
If you mean something different, that's
you always want to be competitive long term.
Mm-hmm. Like traded 24 first in season doesn't lose value to injury.
Oh yes, but that's for sure. Again, but it doesn't score points.
Yeah. Again, if you're thinking about your points per game, that's to me that's what the competitive means. I'm focused more on my points per game. But again, like we said, in a vacuum, getting a first to Calvin Ridley in Dynasty, solid move. Competitive or not, you still got other players to score points, and the first is good value. Good value normally wins in Dynasty. But again, I do think Zach came up with a better move than either, which is Pickens in the first to go get T. Higgins. That's value and points. That sounds nice. But again, the Higgins owner might not like it. So you go to that section of your ranks, pick who you like, work down the list, and maybe they also know. But I honestly think it's the best move you can make there to stay competitive, but you're still thinking about value, which is the way it should be. It's Dynasty. Agreed. Great take. Hey, there you go. I'm assuming he's not talking about me. But yeah, he was talking about your trade. Because it was. Good idea. We hit the end of it.
We hit the end.
That rarely happened.